right, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Made it through another week. Yay! Always worth celebrating. All right, so today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast, my guest is David Dennis. David is the co-founder of Ventana Surfboards and Supplies, the most environmentally responsible surf company in the world. He is also a 20-year veteran at Microsoft, where he has worked in various product and program management roles around the world. David is here to share the story of starting his first successful business. Welcome to the First Time Storytelling broadcast, David.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, was your first successful business the first business you started?
No, absolutely not. I was a public school teacher for 6 years, 5 in the U.S., and then I taught in a private school in Costa Rica for a year. And back in the early 90s, I taught myself web development, and ultimately left education and started a company in the first internet boom. And I learned a ton, but it was a miserable failure. That experience ultimately allowed me to move to Microsoft. I built up enough tech experience to land that job, which was great. But man, we made a lot of mistakes. So absolutely not. My first business was crash and burn.
So the first one, so it was a website development.
Yeah, so I partnered with a couple of guys, and we created a web-based project collaboration solution. So there's a lot of them out there now today. It was probably a little ahead of its time, but we also made a lot of mistakes. But yeah, it was supposed to be an online service for small businesses to manage projects.
And you were self-teaching yourself how to program this and how to do everything.
Yeah, so my partners were the developers at that point. I was doing web design on the side, and that's kind of where I got the experience to decide to start an internet company, which turned out wasn't quite a tough experience. But I wasn't actually doing the development of that product. It was a lot more complex than my skills would allow.
Okay, but it did lead to you getting a great job at Microsoft. And then when did you return back to trying the entrepreneurial thing again?
So I started about, gosh, it's a little over 6 years now. And I'm still at Microsoft, but I also am the co-founder of Ventana Surfboards and Supplies here in Santa Cruz, California. And I did a photo exhibit to raise money for the Surfrider Foundation Santa Cruz chapter. And through that photo exhibit, I had this idea for an eco-friendly surf company. It was a surf-related photo exhibit of surfboard shapers. I met my business partner. He was building these incredible wooden surfboards, and we decided to go into business together. So I've been doing that for about 6 years. For me, it's a side project. For him, it's full time, but it's been going great, and we've been pretty successful.
All right, so then let's back it up to when did surfing enter your life?
Good question. So I'm 51, and I didn't start surfing until I was just about 40. And so we could talk about first time surfing too. It turned into an almost instantaneous addiction.
Tell us about that.
I was living in Madrid, Spain, working for Microsoft for a couple of years. And then we moved back to Santa Cruz. And this was my 2 kids, my wife and I. And I think my kids were 8 and 10. And my wife and my 2 kids and I took private surf lessons here in Santa Cruz because we knew that we were going to stay in Santa Cruz again. We had been here before for the long haul. And it's sort of the surf center it's where surfing started in North America in the 1800s. And so it's just a huge surf culture. So we figured if we're going to be here full time, we're going to surf. My wife didn't get into it. My kids and I did. But we just took lessons in a beginner spot, and I got up and my kids got up, and we absolutely fell in love with it. And that ultimately turned into a business. That's how addicted I got.
Oh wow. So you learn to surf, you start, obviously, like you said, you're in that community, you're in that world, you're engaging more in it. How did you end up? So it was a volunteer position that you ended up doing the photo shoot?
Good question. So it's an interesting story. And I actually did a TEDx about it. So you can look up "Don't Quit Your Day Job" by David Dennis on YouTube, and you can see the short TEDx about how it all worked. But one of the things I do, and I haven't done one in a little while, but one of the things I do is I like to do portrait photography, a lot of street portraits and things of people, and meet people that way. And so I pick a nonprofit in the areas of ocean conservation, homelessness, or education. And then I'd take a series of photos, portraits of people that are related to what the work that nonprofit does is. And then I put on a big photo show and I sell the photos and I donate 100% of that revenue to the nonprofit. And then Microsoft has this incredible matching program, this giving program. So everything we donate to charity up to $15,000 a year, they match.
Oh, wow.
And then they also match $25 an hour for every hour we volunteer. So I put on these big photo shows, I log all the hours, Microsoft pays the nonprofit $25 for every hour. And then all the money that is raised through the photography sales go to the nonprofit, and then Microsoft matches it. So each one raises between $10,000 and $20,000. I've done 7 of them. And one of the first successful one was with the Surfrider Foundation, where I photographed surfboard shapers all over the Santa Cruz County area. And shooting that exhibit made me see how toxic the industry is, especially surfboard making. Just going into surfboard shaping bays where the shapers are making the boards and there's toxic foam and resins and it's horrible. So that was where the idea came from. And the person who is now my business partner, I met because he was one of the people I photographed.
Okay, so part of me wants to ask you about how you get started in photography, but I feel that's going to take us a different way. So let's focus on the story of the first successful business. So you meet your business partner, you take photographies of him. How did you engage? How did that relationship grow to you becoming business partners?
Well, so he was building surfboards. So the focus of the company, we do apparel and we do a bunch of things. So we've invented some products and surf wax and things like that. But he's been building these surfboards for, I don't know, about 13 or 14 years. And he had been building them under the brand name Ventana with another partner. And that partnership didn't go so well and they split apart. And so while I was photographing, I wrote a business plan for this new kind of surf company that had a super high bar for environmental responsibility. And then I was just thinking about, who I might be able to partner with, and just realized that Martijn, the guy I had photographed, had this unbelievably high bar for building things out of trash and making sure that they met a really top standard for environmental responsibility. And so what he was already building fit with what the vision for the surf company was. And he had already broken up with his other partner. So I put together a presentation and I showed it to him and I said, hey, why don't we partner and try to do something together? He is a great builder and I've got the business side. I'm not allowed to touch the tools. I would cut my fingers off. And so when I go into the workshop, I'm sort of not allowed to touch anything. So it's a great partnership because he's an amazing craftsperson and I'm more of a business person. And so it's worked really well together, but we met through a photo exhibit.
Okay, so you brought in a lot of your business expertise to what he was already doing. So where were things 6 years ago compared to where they are now? And what are some of the growing pains and successes that have come in the process?
So we've stayed pretty small. There's still just 2 of us. The very first day, the launch day, was actually kind of interesting. And I think it's a good lesson it was definitely a lesson for us and maybe for others too. We started super, super small. We basically set up a table at a craft fair for the holidays in Santa Cruz with a very small sampling of products and surfboards and apparel and surf wax and beanies and a few other things, just to see if the concept would work, that people would, be willing to pay for slightly more for environmentally responsible products, and that the brand would work, and that the whole story we were telling would resonate. And it was incredibly successful that first day. And so we knew we were onto something. And then we just have grown from there. The surfboards are quite pricey. They take 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes longer, to build a single board. And they're somewhere between $8,000 and $15,000 each.
Oh, wow.
When we started, they were in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. So we've been able to grow the price point primarily because the effort is so incredible, and the quality of my partner's work just gets better every time. And then we built a small wholesale business because we know now what works in terms of apparel. We've had a pretty successful product that we invented, a surfer toolkit that sells around the world. And so the lesson was start really small and iterate your way into success based on what's working and killing off the things that aren't.
So how are you keeping things as you're creating these new product, where they're being produced? Like how are you keeping your environmental footprint as you continue to grow?
That's the hard part. So the products that we make, we have something called the Save a Surf Box and the surfboards. We have a thing called a hand plane that's for body surfing, and most of that stuff's made out of wood. That's all created in Santa Cruz by my partner, and it's fairly small scale. Some of the things like the apparel, hoodies, t-shirts, thermals, things like that, we source from a company that uses organic cottons, recycled materials, manufactured in the US. And so it's never perfect. New clothing manufacture is not the best for the environment, but we're always trying to find products that meet a higher bar than the average in the industry.
So what's the ultimate vision? So is the goal to kind of,
Yeah.
you're happy where things are at, or is it to continue to scale, get other people to learn how to make the boards?
We're pretty happy with where things are. I think it would be great. I mean, the long-term vision would be really neat if we could scale it up, scale up our wholesale, scale up our retail, potentially open a couple of stores. And then the vision would be to be something like Patagonia, but exclusively for surfing. And we'll see. I mean, we love the small lifestyle company we've built. And when there's an opportunity, if there's an opportunity to go bigger, we will.
All right. So what are the key what are the key things you brought in from the past failure into this business? So because you're the business partner, the business mind, so a lot
Yeah.
of that was writing on you, and then your experience at Microsoft. So what are the key things that made you successful in this business?
I think one of them was not taking investment. So we self-funded and we started with a fairly small amount of money. There's a lot of pressure when we took angel investor money in the startup that I did in the 90s. I think it was about $650,000, so not a
Oh,
lot.
that's still pretty. For an
Well,
angel round, that's a pretty strong angel round.
yeah, I mean, given that we're in Silicon Valley, we're
Yeah.
at least over the mountain from Silicon Valley. We're always seeing 100 million, $200 million investments and things. So for us, and even back then, that was big, relatively small. But yeah, as an angel round, it wasn't terrible. And so, but then you've got a lot of pressure, and it's difficult there's an expectation that you're moving even faster than might be possible. So that was one. There were certainly lots of other lessons learned. I don't think we were as focused. We had a bunch of different things we were trying to do in parallel, and so having a really crystal clear vision and a very clear understanding of exactly what you're going to build for the first version, and not deviating from that and trying to change the plan every few weeks. I think those were all things that we learned. I've learned a ton at Microsoft. Two big ones are using data to make decisions. You have a spark of an idea, but until you actually put it out there in the world and see if it works and people like it and it sells and your marketing campaign works the way you think it's going to do, and using data to make those decisions is something I've learned. The other one is partnering. So Microsoft is a phenomenal company in terms of enabling other people and empowering other people around the world and other businesses to succeed through partnerships and collaborations and resellers around the world who implement our products. And so we've done a lot of that. We've done a lot of collaborations with local companies, with some larger companies, and trying to find places where more than one business can come together for shared success. We've done, as an example, we do beer collaborations with a company here in town called Humble Sea Brewing Company. And so we create these collaborative surf-centric beers with the Ventana brand on them. And then we co-market the beer. And that's a way for us to cross-pollinate our marketing. And that works really well. So this whole idea of partnering for shared success was something I also learned at Microsoft.
Oh, no, those are really great things that you've learned, and thank you for sharing those great
Sure.
things for people to keep in mind. And it definitely really helps that there's a mission, there's a purpose behind what you're doing, and you're in the right community to do that. Location is key. Not
Yeah.
just where you buy real estate, but where you start your business. And so it really sounds like you learn a lot and applied all of that to this current business, which is what is driving it to be successful.
Well, and I think you're kind of doing the same thing, right? You're tapping into all these different people to showcase the kind of things you're doing. And so, right now we're two screens and this is something of a collaboration. So you're
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause I want people to realize the power of first times and overcoming whatever's standing in your way to have that first time. So it's really great when people hear the story of like, yeah, I felt the first time. I learned a lot. I went back at it. And, I tell people to slice and dice. Like a new experience is always a first time. A first time doesn't have to be a new experience. You just set that next goal and that's your next first and your next first.
Yep.
And talk about the release of dopamine and what it, how it continues to drives and keeps you inspired and motivated. But I want to bring out the stories of everyone so that it can click and someone say, well, I can give it a go. And you know what? It's okay if it doesn't work out because I'll try again. So yesterday, my guest shared, the first time he went out to run the 100 miles at a shot, it didn't happen. But it was still a great experience for him and so much growth. And, I just really, because, so I tell people my mission is I want to raise human potential in my lifetime through encouraging people to really start stepping it up and pushing themselves. So, yep, absolutely. So I'm very grateful to have you on the show. All right. Are you ready to play the first time lightning round?
Yes.
Okay. So the way it works, I think you're familiar with it, but for those who don't, so the way it works is I'm going to ask David 10 different first times. And if it's something that he has done before, he'll say up or he's done it before. And the reason why he would say up is on the app, when a first time you've done before comes up, you swipe up. If it's something you've never done, not interested, we go left. And if it's something you've never done that would like to do, then we add it to your list and we go right.
And so I'm doing this and this.
Yeah. Up,
That's
right, left.
Up, right, left. Okay.
Okay. Sing karaoke.
Up.
Up. I've done that. What was your first? Do you remember your first karaoke song that you sang?
So I've been married for about 25 years, and I like to sing "Sister Golden Hair" surprise to my wife, and I'm actually taking singing lessons, but I'm terrible. And I sing "Sister Golden Hair" surprise to my wife when I'm feeling up to it in karaoke.
Oh, this is crazy. So one of the things it's been very weird. So I have a very long list of first time that I choose from for my guests. It actually takes me like a tad bit of time. So when I was making your list, I had take singing lessons and I looked at it and I didn't put it on the list, but it was like, I don't know, it just resonated. I'm like, let me go with sing karaoke. And if he's taking singing lessons, he'll say that.
Yep,
That's crazy.
I've been doing that.
I'm starting to have a sixth sense with this stuff. All right, use a compass.
Use a compass. Oh yeah.
Yep, done that. Ice skate.
Yeah. So I was a scuba instructor, used to use compasses underwater, and I took ice skating lessons as a kid.
Oh, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Silicon Valley, a place called Saratoga, California.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't
not
a popular thing to do, take ice skating.
Wasn't even like hockey lessons. It was just skating around.
Just skating.
No idea.
All right, awesome. Ride in a dune buggy.
Yeah.
Done that.
I think in Mexico and in Central California.
Okay. Go on a dinner cruise.
Yep.
Done that.
That's Microsoft does stuff like that all the time, just as like morale events and partner meetings. And so mostly through Microsoft, I think. In Egypt too on a vacation, but yeah.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Volunteer at a boys and girls club.
Actually, that's a good one too. I started a Boys and Girls Club chapter in Long Beach, California when I was a teacher there.
Oh, awesome. Is it still going strong?
I don't know. It was it was 30 years ago.
Okay. Attend high school graduation.
Attend it?
Yeah.
Yep. My own and my kids.
Oh, that's not what I meant to say. High school reunion.
Yep,
graduation. Did that too. All right. Where'd you go? Okay. Invest in a retirement plan.
Yeah, sure. 401k through Microsoft.
Okay. Play World of Warcraft.
Which one is that? Or if I haven't done it?
If you haven't done it and would like to do it's right. If you haven't done it, not interested, it's left.
Left.
Left. Not
Oh,
interested in World of
no.
Warcraft. Okay. Use a crock pot.
Use a crock pot. I'll put it right. I think maybe I did years ago, but I don't remember. I'm not a terrible
Okay.
cook. My wife can make gourmet food out of dirt, and I'm not terribly great of a cook, so I don't push myself.
But you enjoy the food that she makes.
Yeah, and I try to cook too, but it's always miserable.
Okay, well, I'm gonna score it on the right side because then I would be
Yeah,
disappointed and
yeah.
I did not get it right on you. I'm always I always want to get a couple ups left and down and right. Okay, next question is the first time story prompt. And today's prompt is the first book that had an impact on you.
Oh. I remember reading Jonathan Livingston Seagull when I was a kid and that having an impact, but now it's been so long I don't remember why.
Oh,
So I'll say that this is not the first book, but the one that continues to have an impact is a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, about how
uh,
even in the Holocaust and even in a concentration camp, it was possible for people to find meaning to keep going. And I
yeah,
think about that. I'm Jewish, and I think about that a lot. About even when things are really, really bad, you can still try to find meaning and get through it.
that is an incredible book. I definitely had a big impact. So I was an avid reader when I was a kid. I got the bookworm award out of my eighth grade class, and I wanted to be an author. And although I read a lot, I think the book that first impacted me the most was the Poisonwood Bible by Barbara.
King Silver, is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
and
never read it, but I know the
and
book.
it was just like how powerful an author can be in bringing you into a new world. So I didn't know anything about Africa. She takes us into the Congo, and it's a family of like Baptist, the words escaping
Missionaries.
me, missionaries. Yeah, and it's written from the different point of views of the characters, and it's all weaves so beautifully together. And I was reading
I'll have
it,
to
and I
read
was
it.
like, will I ever be able to write something like that? It was a little intimidating, but at the same time, it was like an aspiration of someday I hope that I can write something that moves someone, so powerfully. And I've
Right.
since then read other books like that where it's just like Eric Larson, as far as like nonfiction goes, is just so amazing. He makes me feel the same thing, although I have to use a dictionary when I read his
Yeah,
books.
funny.
So, all right. So the final question is, how have you been making the best of the situation with the pandemic?
Um, yeah, it's tricky. A couple things. One is I work, this little box I'm in right now is 80 square feet in my backyard. And so I've been working remotely for Microsoft for about 5 or 6 years. And so it hasn't, in terms of like work environment or my productivity, it's exactly what it was before. Um, the other way I've been writing down predictions about what I think is going to happen as things kind of hopefully come back to normal and what the new normal is going to be. I'm actually working with a couple of people right now on a new business idea around. It's actually the first project would be creating sustainable standalone offices for information workers like I am. And so that's because I think the idea of distributed work is going to be pretty widespread after this. But part of what I've been trying to do is, instead of getting depressed about it, writing down the opportunities that I think are going to come for other people, for us, as a result of some of the changes. I mean, if we don't commute as much, the environment is going to be healthier. There's a lot of positive that can come out of it. But it's also been, my kids have been home mostly. They've been back and forth a little bit to college, but it's been good to reconnect with the family even more.
Oh, that's incredible. That's awesome. And that's the entrepreneurial mindset. It's like, okay, what are all the opportunities, all the positive? Let's focus on that and shift. I think everyone who's in that negative place, lift them up and shift them to looking at what, the like we get. I think I'm right there with you. I think it's a great opportunity to decide what the new normal looks like, what things are
Yeah.
going to shift, and um, things were going to change anyways as technology shifts and changes, takes over jobs, replaces people to where, human power and human creativity and the true skills that cannot be replicated by machines. We need to embrace that a lot more, and there's a lot more freedom that is in that. So that's excellent. That's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And I've been trying to think about, and it's not just about, wow, what kind of opportunities can we take advantage of, from a business perspective, but it's also things like, if we're going to have distributed work will become more the new normal, then commercial real estate's going to be crunched because we won't need all these office buildings where people get together in a single location. Like Twitter is now saying people can work remotely as long as they want. And so that means there probably won't be as much need for commercial real estate. So then you think, okay, what can we do with that space? Does it make sense for the government to fund buybacks so that we can create park spaces? Or do we turn that into lower income housing so some of the people who are homeless can have a better opportunity? And so I've been trying to think more holistically about it as opposed to just, what are the opportunities for me as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. And I love that, because one of the protection of our earth, our one planet. I get that a lot of people are out to shoot us, into space, and it's really good because I think, whatever, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years from now, there's a requirement for that. But absolutely, to be able to recapture that space instead of continue to grow out or continue to grow up, continue to pollute our environment, to look at all of those things. And the entrepreneur, it's not the politicians that are going to make this happen. It is the entrepreneurs who are going to, set and blaze that path and open up the conversation and the dialogue. So
Yeah.
it's really awesome that you're doing that. And
Yeah, I think the key will be what action can I take as opposed to just thinking about it. So
yeah.
But when things get back to normal, I'm hoping they'll be able to get involved in some at least local opportunities with local government, local nonprofits and things. At least do some more photo shows to help raise money.
I love it. That is splendid. Well, keep up the great work that you do. And thank you again for joining me on this great Friday morning. And I wish you a fabulous weekend. And thank you.
Thanks a lot. This was great. Really enjoyed talking with you.